Thank you. That was just a lovely speech. Kathleen Becket. She's our second speaker. She's a first-year student. She comes to us with a background in special ed and dramatic arts and a long-standing commitment to social justice.
Satyagraha, a Sanskrit word meaning insistence on truth. It is the word Gandhi used in his fight for social justice and a practice later adopted by Dr. King and Cesar Chavez. For each of these men, social justice was not just an abstract concept. For them, justice demanded action. I mentioned Mahatma Gandhi today because he has something important in common with us. Like us, he chose to become a lawyer. Like us, he believed that the best way towards maintenance and change was through the law. Long before Brown versus the Board of Education, Roe v. Wade, and Obergefell v. Hodges. But litigation is rarely the first step. Mahatma Gandhi simply gathered a handful of salt. Cesar Chavez left ripened grapes rotting on the vine. For Dr. King, it was Claudette Colvin, a teenager, and Rosa Parks, a seamstress, sitting resolute on a segregated bus. When Rosa Parks stayed in her seat, it was against the law to do so. When Cesar Chavez picketed horrible working conditions that included exposure to pesticides that created birth defects and respiratory ailments, he was violating a court order. When Rosa Parks sat on the bus, it was against the law for her to do so. When Gandhi gathered that handful of salt, it was against the law for an Indian to do so. But injustice is not confined to our history books. Injustice happens every day, in ways that make headlines and in ways that do not. My experiences teaching special education in East Los Angeles taught me that there are times when good law needs aggressive advocates, and my experience as a union rep has taught me that there are times when the law needs to be challenged and changed. While teaching a special day class at Sierra Park Elementary, I met many incredible students, including Eduardo, a bright boy who worked very hard to catch up to grade level. I was confident that with proper IEP supports, Individualized Education Program, a legally recognized document, he would succeed learning math in a general education setting. I was hyper-vigilant in incorporating all necessary strategies into his IEP. I did this for all my students. I cared deeply about each of them, and I wanted them to succeed beyond my classroom. I knew strong IEPs would keep them protected because they would have the law on their side. I was wrong. Eduardo did not receive the supports I put into his IEP. He ended up in the general education math, but he missed the first half of the math class because his special day class conflicted with the lecture portion of the math class. So every day he missed the lecture and then was expected to do the work anyway, every single day. Even legal documents like IEPs are only as good as the people enforcing them. The situation with Eduardo was eventually rectified, but only after weeks of me being told my advocacy was intrusive and inappropriate. Special education teachers in Beverly Hills and Marina Del Rey do not have these problems. The parents of their students can afford to hire lawyers. Socioeconomic status does not determine one's entitlement to justice, but too often it determines one's ability to access it. Today, I believe some of the most powerful voices against social and economic injustice are labor unions. But my connection to Cesar Chavez is not based solely on union loyalties. It is rooted in family and in the Northern California soil, what less educated people call dirt. It is important to know the difference. Dirt is what makes things dirty. Soil is what makes things grow. This is a lesson my father taught me, and a lesson shared by the campesinos that Chavez rallied to fight in the ban against DDT. Back then, I went to school with migrant workers' children, and in the summer we worked together, cutting apricots for the drying trays. Their mothers would sometimes come help me. I was slow and awkward and often cut myself, but instead of ridicule and exclusion, I experienced a tremendous generosity of spirit. This was my first lesson in sí, se puede. It can be done. Yet the struggle of farm workers continues. DDT was banned in 1972. 44 years later, new classes of neurotoxic pesticides are still poisoning farm workers, resulting in nausea, respiratory ailments, and birth defects. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, farm workers are still fighting for safe working conditions. Dr. King's words remind us, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Today, it is not only the voices of farm workers crying out against injustice. Challenge and controversy surround us. Sometimes it is covered by the media, sometimes it is not. Black Lives Matter is a rallying cry heard all across the country. Because tragically, we as a society need to be reminded that this is true. We are losing our brothers and sisters to police violence at staggering rates and cannot claim ignorance of this fact. There is no plausible deniability. Rosa Parks was arrested on December 1st, 1955, for protesting racial injustice. Today, Black Lives Matter advocates are being arrested for the very same reason. Today, over 60 years later. I question the tactics of BLM when they shut down the 405. Might they not be alienating supporters with this action? Was inconveniencing thousands of people just trying to get to work really the best strategy? But their point was clear. Not enough people are being inconvenienced by the loss of life happening daily at the hands of police sworn to protect and serve. My brothers and sisters in the movement continue to do what they can to bring this problem to a wider audience, just as Gandhi did with the Salt March in 1930, and King did with the March on Washington in 1963, and Chavez did with the March to Sacramento in 1965. Satyagraha, not just insisting on truth, but making sure people hear it. We are here today to honor Dr. King and Senor Chavez. There is only one way to do this. We must continue their work. The fight for civil rights is now our fight. It's time for us to be the ones insisting on truth. It is time for us to be the ones changing the law. For as Dr. King stated, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Sí, se puede. It can be done.